Hey everyone, and welcome back. This is episode 3 of the teardown of this 2020 M8 for Steven Richardson. We're building a Skunkworks 128 monster for him. If you caught episode 1, you saw the complete engine teardown, trying to discover the exact cause of his extreme sumping issue despite his modifications. Episode 2, we had a sit down, a heart-to-heart about sumping, what really causes it. And then, of course, we did the live after show after that. Today, we're going to measure the crank run out, and I'm going to answer a question that has been asked over and over again. So you're going to want to watch this one. Let's get to it. All right, let me show you guys where I'm at already. We're set up here to measure crank run out. I have already pulled the pistons, which are sitting here. So we're going to measure crank run out, and then we're going to take a look down inside this case. This is a 1/2 thousandths indicator. It's kind of awkward trying to do this with a camera on my head so you guys can see. We've got 2 thousandths on that side. Yeah, so we've got 2 thousandths worth of run out. One other thing I'm going to check here, just to see what we've got on the shaft. Up and down, we've got 1 thousandths up and down there. And then we're going to check run out one more time. 1/2 on that side, right at 1 on that side. Between 1 1/2, 2 thousandths run out. Run out's not a problem. All right. Okay, now with only 2 thousandths run out, we can't blame the crank on the sumping issue. We can't blame the cam plate and oil pump on it either. I've left the case draining ever since the last video, because if you remember how much oil we got out of the bottom of the crankcase when I removed the crank sensor. Now there's a little hidden thing here. Most people are thinking that if you pull the crank sensor that all of the oil is draining out of the crankcase. That is not the case at all. Now, after letting this case sit, it's been basically for 2 days now. Let's see how much extra oil drips down underneath. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. We've got quite a bit of oil that's down here on the engine stand. So we had some extra oil come out, but this is something interesting that I want to show you guys. So we have, obviously the cam chest is open, crank sensor is out. Let's rotate the crank and see if there's any oil that the crank picks up, even with the crank sensor removed. Hopefully you guys can see down in there. Let's pull. Now watch in this area right here on the wheel. Again, no crank sensor, cam chest open. And look at that. We're still picking up oil on the crank after this has sat for 2 days with the crank sensor out. Look at the oil slinging. Can you see this? Okay. Now have a look here at all of this oil that's here, right? Imagine we had the amount of oil in this. How much oil in this area here would have been slung up inside the cylinders? You also see the oil here. Let's rotate it again. You see the amount of oil slinging? Okay, that oil is slinging absolutely everywhere. Okay, now I want to show you guys something else. The primary reason I did this on the teardown table was to collect the amount of oil that came out of the engine. Now let's walk over here and pull the tray out from underneath it. That is how much oil we actually drained out of it. Now let's measure what came out. This is a 26-ounce container. This is a, 18-ounce container? There's no question we're going to fill these up. So let's just start with this one, because want to do another interesting test here and let you guys see this. So, well, we've got 18 ounces there, and this one, again, we've got a 28 ounce container there, and we still have oil left. All right, let me grab a rag here. So the big question is, what I said, the question that people are wanting to know the answer to is how much oil can be in the crankcase without it causing a problem. So the first thing that we've demonstrated here is that there is still, even if you pull the crank sensor and you measure, say you get 4 ounces out of the crank sensor down here, there's still enough oil in the case after draining for 2 days with the crank sensor removed for it to pick up enough oil and sling oil up here. And I'm not rotating this crank at 4,000 RPM either. The next test we want to do, let's say we've pulled the crank sensor, and if we were to check how much it actually drained out of it, then we would have 0 ounces. So now the word is 4 to 6 ounces is acceptable. So now let's take a plug, put it in the bottom of the engine case, and we're going to pour 4 ounces of oil into the case and repeat this process and watch how much slings out. I'm just using a little rubber plug here. All right, now we've got roughly 16 ounces there. So let's just pour 4 ounces in. Now we're down to 14. Let's put another 2 ounces. Okay, there we go. All right. Now, notice we don't have any oil coming out of the cam chest. Okay, there's none there, so we've got oil contained there, and we've got no oil dripping out of the bottom here. Now let's do the same thing. All right, oil everywhere. Now let's do the big test. We see how much oil. That's only with me adding 4 ounces of oil on top of this case being completely drained through the crank sensor. Only 4 ounces. You see how much oil we have. Now let's pour in, let's say another, well, I mean, we got over a quart out of this one, so heck, let's just go ahead and pour about another ounces. Let's pour about another 6 ounces in there. Okay, 6 ounces. One severely sumping. Now let's watch what happens. All right. Now let's pretend this is Steven's engine. And let's fill it up. Let's put everything back in it that came out. Now I want you to watch. Notice we still do not have oil coming out of the cam chest area yet, into the cam chest. Let's keep pouring. All right, now we're just now seeing we've put, what was that? Let's see. What I have 16 ounces here, and we had 28 ounces here. All right, we are just now starting to get oil coming through here out of the cam chest, right? Now let's rotate it at a low RPM and see what happens. Yeah, quite a mess, huh? Quite a bit of oil. Now, the other thing I want you to look at, if you can see down in the hole, let's do this a little bit longer. All right, now, that'll wear you out. If you look down in there, you can see, I hope you guys can see it, the air bubbles in the oil. That's cavitation. Remember, I'm only rotating this thing at, I have no idea how many RPM. A very slow RPM, nowhere near running condition. Whew, but yet, we have that much cavitation in the oil. All right, so that oil cavitation, again, compounds this issue and then can also create oil starvation to the top end and all that type of stuff. So let's go a couple of minutes longer. Now let's see. Yep, a lot more air bubbles. You can see the bubbles here, okay? That's fluid cavitation. And guys, after this making as big of a mess as it has, I'm not going to split the case in this episode. Sorry, you'll have to come back next week. And it's just, we've checked the crank run out anyway, so we'll split the case. We're going to see the balancer in there, and we're going to see the crank. I will film that, but just this test alone, we were able to see by pulling the sensor how much oil can build up in there to begin the cavitation process, how much oil it could actually hit the crank. So there we go, guys. I hope you have a great weekend. The good news is Pete is feeling better, so we're gonna be happy to have him back first of next week. And of course, he's tested negative, so that's fantastic news. It's been a long week, a very busy week with a lot of hours. So guys, we appreciate you very much. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and as always, take care of yourselves and each other. See you on episode 4. Have a good one.